Huh.
Hey guys, it's Dane at Jonah Guitars, and I got a brand new build series I'm going to start uploading. It's about this guy right here, the GECKO, and all of the whole process of building will be covered. It's going to be a very complete series. So I hope you join me, and we'll see you there. Alrighty, so I wanted to recess the control pots and the switch on the GECKO. And hard to explain this since I've already done the control, the switch, selector switch recess. And what I used was, actually it was an old set. It would be style and rail cutters, basically half of a style and rail cutter. You had see if I can hold this where you can see what it is. You had half of that. You had another one just like it flipped over on the other side of it with a little spacer in the middle, about 1/4 inch, and you'd run your rails and your styles through that in order to give you that detail, which would be the opposite of what you're looking at. Anyway, and then your 4 pieces, your rails and styles would slip together. Anyway, I broke that set apart the last time I did a recess, which was I think it was on the Paduk carved top, my guitar, the one I play, and it's harder to understand on the shaft, you know, without the shaft, because the shaft is in the drill press right now. But with the 1/2 inch bearing, I just use that as the pilot in the hole here, and it just holds the cutter centered, and then just, you know, shoot it on down there. So that's perfect for that switch. Now I want to do the 2 pots, and those are 3/8. So this bearing that's on here is too big to go in the hole and center the cutter in the hole on the pots. And so what I'm doing is, this is the shaft that holds the cutter, the fly cutter we'll call it. And so what I'm doing is I'm making a bushing that's 3/8. And I just had a piece of another one right here. I had punched these dowels out. Looks like mahogany for some reason, for some other thing I was doing. Anyway, I made extras, so they're laying there in the my abalone shell catch-all tray. Anyway, so I'm in the process of filing that down. I thought, yeah, this might be interesting. It's kind of the thing where I could wait until tomorrow. It's about 8 o'clock. Could wait until tomorrow and go by the hardware store and pick up a bushing, if they have one that has a 3/16 center with a 3/8 outside, to use it as a rub to hold that cutter center. So what I'm going to do, what I'm doing in the process of, is running the drill press, holding the file there and filing that as it goes around. It is, however, filing it with a recess in the center. For some reason, this file, it'd probably be different if I moved it up and down, but I don't want to hit this metal bushing with my Shinto hacksaw file. So hopefully that's not super loud. And so all I'm doing is I just raise the table and you know, to the point where I could just file this, and just checking it every so often to see if I'm down to my 3/8. I had a ways to go. And since it's cutting it deeper in the center than it is on the outside edges, I'm just getting in there with my caliper and checking it. When I get the center close to where I want to be, I'll grab a different file. I'm at 409, 403 right now. I need to be down 375. So more of the same. just going to wax this thing once it's where I want it so that it'll slide. I got 388 in there right now in the narrowest part. So I'm going to grab a different file. Turn you off for a sec. So I grabbed both my my files, both my fine and my my double cut fret file, and I'm going to just adjust this down. I said I rose the table. What I really did was I lowered the thing here and just tightened it in the down position. So now I'll hold it on this side. Having this on the square block just kind of makes sure it's square to the world, which is nice. Nice and handy. And we're down to 392. All right. I was going to check that. I should have this sort of thing memorized, but it says on this little chart that 3/8 is 375. So we're good. $387, at about approximately 10 thousandths to go. Says it's at 375 right now. Okay, good. I'm going to hit it just a little bit with the fine file. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to take this apart. Let's see here. And I previously ground all this was a nut. It's a nylon lock nut, and I ground the hex off of it the last time I used it for whatever hole size I was dealing with there. So I just have to use the pliers to take it off of there. And I am going to unplug the drill press because I don't want to be holding on to this thing when I put that winged cutter on there. So here's my bushing. That's here's the guitar right here. Yeah, it fits those holes. It's just a fuzz on the loose side, but I'm not going to let that get to me. No. And tighten this thing enough to make sure this cutter isn't sliding, but at the same time I don't want to mash this little bushing since it's made out of wood. And it's still sliding. This could be a problem. We'll try that. It should only get tighter. I hope it doesn't get tighter and blow up while I'm trying to cut this guitar. That would ruin my day. That's really snug now. Shut you off again while I get some wax. Alright, so got the wax. Put a little wax on this thing. Okie dokie. Alright, let's see what kind of mess we can make. So I did mushroom that out a bit by snugging that up. Yep, sure did. Just on the bottom though. You know, if I had thought about this a little bit and had to do it over, I might still, I'll just take this thing off and soak it with some super glue so that it stiffens all those grain up. I'm a little reluctant though to take it off of here again. Yeah, I think I'm going to take it off and soak it in super glue and try it out and see what happens with it. If I blow this guitar up, I'm not going to do it on camera. I know that's chicken, huh? Alright, so I've started doing this, and I suspected this was going to be a problem because with it being the smaller bushing, and you can't see it well, the cutter on this wing only comes down and then stops, and it stopped because the old bearing, which is bigger, actually slid up into it a little bit. So you've got a stop on the end of the cutter, and that stop creates this little step right in the inside of the hole. So the first time around, I just grabbed one of my big bullnose cutters, and I just by hand, I've just kind of nicked that down a little bit. Just kind of what I thought I would have to do when I was thinking about it earlier. But now the cutter is getting to the point to where there's enough drag on it because of the depth of the holes that it's stopping when it hits the wood. Because I can't get enough torque on this wooden bushing to hold the thing tight. So I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow and go by the hardware store and see if I don't work tomorrow, so I'll go by the hardware store and see if they have a bushing that'll fit this. Anyway, I'll demonstrate what's going on with this. It just starts to skim the top of the wood and then backs out. You can see I had no problem getting to depth on the switch recess. And so if I can get the right size bushing, hopefully I'll be able to get one that I don't have to file on, but we'll see. If I have to file on a metal bushing, that's going to be a bit more effort than this one was. All right, see ya. Alright, next day, I gotta unplug the drill press again. Next day, I tried tightening the little wooden bushing here, and I did tighten it, and then I filed it down a little bit more and drilled some more, but it was still got to a point it would only go so far, and then it would lock it. It would just start spinning. The cutter would spin. So I'm going to pull that nut off of there again, and I ran over to the hardware store today, and we didn't have any in metal. Well, that could be interesting. And that wood bushing off of there after having mashed it. But we did have some nylon ones. So I'm going to put a nylon bushing on there. We'll use the shorter. I've got two. Supposed to be, and they do appear to be 3/16. I don't want the old one, and I don't want that one. I want the nut. All right, I'm just muttering to myself here. So that should that should tighten up and stay put, I hope. Okay, the bushing. So let's see. Got. See if it goes in this hole. Yep, it goes in the hole. Alright, so now I'm going to do, actually, let's see if I can keep this down here for a second. Wrong way. And lock this drill press in it. Well, I guess I can't. What's happening here? No, it didn't come around far enough. There we go. What I want to do, and I'm not sure you can actually see what's happening from that angle. I'm going to pull it off the tripod. Alright, if it'll focus. Maybe not. Alright, so you can see the wings on that cutter now. And what I want to make sure is that I don't take this well farther out than the end of the cutter, because I don't want to get a square edge cut into this. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark that, and then I'll be able to just cut down to where I want to be. I'm probably going to stop before I get all the way out to the end of the cutter, this end, just because I'm concerned about the top thickness here. So I don't necessarily need to be the full diameter of that cutter, although I would like it to kind of warp around there. So, put you back on the tripod. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. I gotta plug the machine in. All right. To mark this other one. This cutter's pretty dull, so apparently, and pointed this out yesterday. We get these little ridges built up in there because the cutter doesn't go all the way to the inside of that edge. So I found a little router cutter that fits into, I've just put it in my drill motor, and it just cuts that little rim off of there. I'm going to, the thickness is about right, and the size of the well is about right. And so what I'm going to do is run those holes down, and then I'm just going to cut enough to get a clean cut so I don't have a burn mark on there, and then I'll carry on. Alright, so I'm just getting set up here to run a little round over on the back of this guitar. And so I actually put it in a different router, and I decided I was just going to put it in the table rather than doing a handheld thing. Probably would have worked out alright, but why take chances? So, I'm going to put the bit in. Basically got my homemade router table thing. I got a couple of them cut in the bench here. Can you see this? I got one right here as a hole. Move that out of the way. One right here. And then I got one right under here as well. And so I got two different spots I can set up in depending on what's going on. And I have another router I can set up too. So let's go down. It looks like I got some crud on the cutter. One of my future investments will be a good router table that you can crank up or down with the little rod that goes through the table. I backed away a little bit. One of my regular commenters said I was making him claustrophobic, so we'll see how this works. If the rest of you say we can't see anything, well, then we'll change. Usually when I'm in the table, I just turn the router to the on position. Actually, I just turned it to the off position, which means I had it on the on position, which brings up a good topic. Always check your router before you plug it in. You don't want to plug it in while it's on. And it is on right now, but what I do is I have a power strip over on the end of the bench. I have a mile-long cord and I turn the power strip off and plug it in, and then I can just turn the router on and off without having to reach under the table. For example, I have a port over my head for my dust collector that I need to connect this hose to because I need another piece of hose and I just haven't gotten it. So what I do when I use my planer, which I used all the way back when I was planing this body and top, I took it off of the port overhead and I put it on. I have another port over next to my bandsaw that I roll my planer over to and hook this up. So I'm going to hook this up. I'm not going to leave the camera running for that. Alright, well, the dust collector's running, so I'm all set up. I'm going to flip the router on and go for it. I will climb cut probably most of it, not all of it. Alrighty, we got the guitars, shipped off. It's a Les Paul setup. I got video of it setting it up. I don't know if it'll ever get uploaded. Okay, so where are we at? I ran the round over bit around the back, all around the back, and then I hand sanded, ease this edge in the cutaway, since you can't run the router there, and down around where the neck is going to glue in, down around here and around here. What did I do with that? I decided to go with brass for the plates. So the cavity, control cavity here, and the switch cavity here, I'm going to run brass plate there. Already was planning on having brass here for the string retainer, so that'll work out well. Kind of just ran over it real quick with the sander. I don't know what, I think that was 180 that was on there. Did another quick once around with the 180, and now that I got that, oh, I wanted to do the round over because I want to get my my output jack hole drilled here, and that if you haven't made this mistake, you don't want to make it, and that is drilling the hole for the output jack and then running your round over bit around the guitar and having the bearing fall into the hole and giving you a nice big gotcha right there. I don't think I've done that on a guitar. I did it on something else. I did it on a cabinet once that I was building, and I built cabinets with plugs, screws and plugs, and I had a screw hole that hadn't been plugged, and I don't remember what the specifics were, but I dropped into a screw hole with the bearing, and as you can imagine, that wasn't a good day. So I haven't made that mistake. I have actually heard about people making that mistake, which is not fun. So anyway, I wanted to work on that output jack, so I went ahead and got that rounded over so I don't have to worry about that, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to measure the outside so that I can pre-bore a recess into this. Maybe I should. I'm going to turn you off for a second. I'm going to grab what I need to get set up for that. Okay, got my calipers and the output jack, and I ran across a piece of brass. I measured this thing. It's about 50 thousandths, and it lines up pretty good. All that piece got a little bit of sticker. I'll see what I'll measure that cavity and get. If I might be able to buy just a fuzz thicker, but that's plenty stiff. And this piece isn't large enough for this, but it's plenty big enough for the round one over here on the front. I don't know where I got this. This looks like it's got a hole in it. It was like it was some sort of a kick plate or something for a door. That, I guess, that'll be the word for this section of video. This will act as its own shielding, right? Is rather, you won't even have to put shielding on the back plate or on here to take care of that, because it'll already be. And I'll use the paint, the shielding paint inside the cavities. Anyway, so that's what I decided to do with that. I think that'll be pretty cool. So let's see. I know that I need a 1/2 inch hole for the jack itself, and you definitely want to drill a recess first if you're going to do one. And I think I want to do one. I'm just going to just get the recess in there so it's nice and smooth. And well, the jack is 466, 7. So that's actually plenty of clearance on the 1/2 inch hole that they said I was required to drill for this. I don't know that I have anything smaller. 636 on that, so I'll have to measure and see what that equals. I could grab my little chart. Anyway, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go rummage around and find the right size drill for the recess. It looks like it needs to be, it's not quite an eighth. It's 60 thousandths. So that's definitely not quite an eighth. 170, get my brain working, 125 is an eighth, so half of that would be, I was thinking 75, but that's not right. So 60 and 60 is 120. So 62 and a half. So that's about a 16th, what I'm looking for there as far as the thickness. All right, I'm going to go scrounge some stuff up. All right, so I did a couple test bores. I didn't bring the little chart over again. Well, the number that, I'll measure it again. The size of this little flange on this output jack, 636, 35, 36, somewhere in there, is actually 5/8 is a little under that, and the next size, it's a 16th increment. The next size up is 11/16, and that is quite a bit too big. So I used the Forstner, did a test with the Forstner bit, because they cut a really nice clean hole, and it was a little undersized, as I suspected. So it won't drop in there. I figured I could do this in this Spanish cedar. I could probably use the Forstner bit and get away with it and just pull it into the recess. And I did a test, and I'm doing this in, particle board, underlayment type particle board. So I just used the regular butterfly bit, flat bit. There's all kinds of names for these things. The part I don't like about it is that it leaves a groove on the outside edge of the hole. Shouldn't be an issue in this particular application. And it did cut a little bit larger diameter hole, and it sits right in there. So I'm going to use that one, even though I'm not a fan of having that little extra ridge in there. But you may or may not know, you probably do, if you bore a hole and then you try to make it bigger, say I bored it with the Forstner and I tried to make it, enlarge it with this bit or even with another Forstner bit, freehanding, that bit would wander all over the place and would make a really huge mess. So we're going to use the butterfly bit. What was the other? Paddle bit, flat bit, butterfly bit, paddle bit. I think paddle bit's probably what most people call it. I was trained by an Okie, and we called them butterfly bits, so that's why I call them butterfly bits. Can you see what's happening here? Turn this around. Well, that makes it worse. Okay. So I'm going to go very gently into the body here because I don't want any tear out. So, and if you watch your lines, you can tell if you're up or down, if you're square to the world. And that looks pretty good right there. Okay. I centered it in the Spanish cedar rather than in the whole side, because I want it to come out in the cavity above the cap there too. So I got to go in quite a bit more than that. It looks like it's going to be a good fit. I'm going to try that. Probably just chip down to the recess that the outside edge cut and chisel that out and actually get that recess down where I want it. I'm going to go grab a 1/4 inch chisel. Lucky for me, this shop is only 400 feet, or I would be walking myself to death. Okay. So I don't want to ding the edge up any, so I'm going to be very careful as I go in here. trying to bring this down. I might need to sharpen this a bit. We'll see. You always know you should have after you slip out of there and gouge a hole in the side of your hand. This is not very sharp. I'm going to sharpen that up a bit. I don't need to hurt myself. I got that sharpened a bit, and it's doing some better. While I was sharpening it, though, I had an idea, and I'm gonna try that once I get this down a little bit. And that is, I was mentioning you can't really make a hole bigger when you change to a different bit. Once you've got the pilot bit, the pilot hole bigger than the bit going in, because they want to just jump around and then they'll skitter all across your work surface. But it occurred to me that I could, once I have a ledge here to hold the bit, I can go in there and spin that Forstner bit in and actually flatten that bottom of that cavity out. So that's where we're going. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to be really mad. So there again, we'll just try to stay square to the surface here. And I am going very slowly. Now, you know what I want to do though, I want to look at it from the back. There we go. Kind of working in the dark here too. I'd rather be a little too deep than too shallow. Although with that bumping out a little bit, it wouldn't hurt because it's pretty smooth unit. And not to forget that we're eliminating that whole plate out here with screws going through it and everything. So I think that's a big plus. I'm going to grab my 6-inch or yeah, let's just do that. Looks like this corner is holding me up. I'm down there. Yeah, need to go down over here a little bit. That looks pretty good. I'm going to take the whole thing down a little bit more because I'm going to be sanding around this whole perimeter. And if I take any material off of here, I don't want to have to rebore it. Okay, just gotta. All right, I like the looks of that a lot. And the outside of this output jack, it's higher in the center than it is on the very edge, so put my finger right in your way so you can't see what I'm pointing at. So there's a step up from this outside edge here, so even if this is just flush with the top of the guitar, then this is just going to just be a little proud of it, so that should work out really well. I'm going to do to punch the 1/2-inch hole through is I'm going to use my step bit. That seems to work really well for that. Works really good when I'm putting in end pins in acoustics. And I'll bring you right back. I probably don't need to keep saying I'll bring you right back. You probably got that figured out. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to drill that through with a bigger bit first, or well, a smaller bit, but all the way through. I think the reason that step bit works so well on end pins is because there's already a hole on an end pin, usually a beveled, peg for the strap. So I just put the drill bit in to see where it was headed, and I don't know if you'll be able to really know from here, but it's leaning that way a little bit. Nothing really super serious. This way looks pretty good. But so it's leaning, down from the top here. So I am going to put another hole, a little larger hole in there. And I'm going to get down here where I can actually sight it so that I'm going in straight from that direction and straight from that direction. Looks good. Now we'll go with the step bit, and that should just push us out to that 1/2-inch that we're shooting for. Okay, now you can see the problem with the step bit, right? It only goes 1/2-inch up to this point, and I was all the way, in. Well, how far was I in? I bet you I know I can get farther. I don't know if I can get far enough, though. Nope, not quite far enough. So I got to grab a 1/2-inch bit and send that all the way through, and then we'll check the fit on that. Looks good. All right, I should point out that the camera is sitting right in the walkway to where my drill bits are, which is about 2 feet away, 4 feet away, excuse me. So if I weren't filming this, it would be no big deal to basically reach right over and do that, or I might have even should have set up on the other corner of the bench. I could have just turned around and grabbed what I needed. But, so I got a 1/2-inch Forstner bit right here, and we're just going to go ahead and punch that through. These things, this thing is dull apparently. They're really dull. Wow. I don't want to be pushing on things so hard I blow a big hole out in the inside here. Man, I'm only a 1/4 inch away. I thought I had a 1/2-inch paddle bit over there. I'm gonna go look again. Alright, this is crazy. I got 7/16. I cannot find a 1/2, so we'll run the 7/16 through there. Probably not going to be big enough. Maybe. Nope. Kind of threads in. That's going to be sweet. Anyway, who'd have thought that it would take this long to drill a hole? Good gravy. I don't even have another 1/2-inch Forstner bit. I don't know why or how this thing got so dull, other than building guitars. All right, well, I'm gonna war my way through with that. Not something I like to do. Yeah, by the time I sand this down a bit, that's going to be a very nice fit indeed. I'm gonna, you can see this, I'm gonna square where you at. I think it's just the way I'm looking at it, but who knows? Now you can't see that. I'm going to square off the that little radius where that's coming through at, so that I'll have a flat spot to tighten the nut up. And that's mostly over on this side, the right side. Huh. That thing looks like it's leaning a little bit, and that doesn't make me happy. Oh well. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a little chisel work on that and see where we end up. And I may be done for the night. We'll see.